People in the service industry, what are some really dumb ways you've caught someone trying to cheat the system? Story 1. My favorite in my McDonald's are the people who don't realize our soda fountain is behind the counter and they ask for a cup of water. So we get them a cup of water and hand it to them. They realize they can't fill it with the soda they wanted and then they go ahead and order a soda anyway. Best caught in the act moment ever. Story 2. Former fancy pants hotel worker here. We have a strict no smoking in the hotel policy because A, it's city law, and B, old historic building. But foremost, the city law dictates that if you allow smoking in your business, the air quality has to meet this impossible standard. I'm not sure what that standard is, but you can look up Mike Ditka's restaurateur and the smoking ban for details. Anyhow, even with a $300 fine detailed at check-in and also in the room, people would still try to smoke in the rooms and get away with it. If they didn't leave evidence, we couldn't charge them, but oddly enough, nobody was ever that smart. On one occasion, the room was covered with smoke and the housekeeper found a pop can loaded with cigarette butts. We actually photograph, tag, and inventory these items because people would tend to dispute these charges. So when presented with the evidence, the lady tells us that she was smoking outside the building, ashing into her hand, and then carrying her ashes up to her room on the 14th floor and carefully depositing all of her ashes into the tiny hole of the pop can. She unsuccessfully disputed her charges. FYI, the $300 charge is in place because we cannot sell the room until the air quality is that of a room where somebody was not smoking. With a good ozone machine, that might even take a day or two. Story 3. I think a super popular one that most people are probably familiar with would be, "Let me talk to your manager." Now, this is especially common when you are simply doing your job as instructed, following rules and policies, and you tell the customer something they just don't want to hear. My ticket says it expires on January 1st, 2014. Can I still use that today? No, ma'am, I'm afraid not. Since the ticket is expired, you will not be able to use it. You'll need to buy a new ticket. What? Nobody ever told me I couldn't use a ticket just because it expired. This is ridiculous. You're trying to steal my money. Let me talk to your manager right now. They're going to let me use this ticket or I will sue you. Oh yeah, on that subject, threatening a lawsuit is another popular one that people try all day long. Story 4. At my McDonald's, this guy came with his 2 young kids and got Happy Meals and then called me over and said this cheeseburger has no meat and demanded that he get another cheeseburger. And then one of his kids said, "Dad, you just ate it," referring to the meat in the cheeseburger. Congratulations, sir, you played yourself. Story 5. I worked at Office Depot. The rewards program is used to give a percentage of purchases back to the customer in the form of a gift card every quarter. One cashier at Office Depot decided to sign up for the rewards program under her name and scan customers' purchases throughout the day under her own account. She ended up accruing thousands of dollars in rewards in one quarter. This is with 1% back on most purchases, which was more than any other customer in the southeast region of the U.S. Needless to say, it wasn't very difficult for management to realize what had happened. Shortly after that incident, Office Depot switched up the rewards program so that this couldn't happen again. Story 6. Didn't happen to me, but a coworker of mine shipped a guitar to a customer once and the customer called in saying he never received it, demanding a replacement be sent immediately or else he would sue. Tracking info said it was delivered and signed for, but delivery theft is still pretty common. On a whim, though, my coworker looked him up on Facebook only to find him holding the guitar in his profile picture with the caption, "My new guitar just arrived." Management sent him a screenshot of that and he was never heard from again. Story 7. My college bookstore sold some El Cheapo tablets that students could buy with their financial aid. Well, with electronics, we required signatures, even without UPS telling us if it was left at the door and all. Well, I had a lady order three $120 tablets. And she lived in a hotel and all, and she called and asked where they were. Well, I pulled up the order and looked at the tracking info, which came up and said, "Delivered, left at the front desk," with the front desk's attendant's signature for all 3 orders. Now she's demanding for us to send her a new one, to which I replied, "Go down to the front desk and ask the receptionist if anything has been left for you. It was delivered, all 3 of your orders." She hung up. And then later that day, she put in another order and I canceled it with the reason being out of stock / product discontinued. Never heard from her again. Story 8. I scanned a shirt without looking carefully and it rang up at $16.99. The customer politely asked me to check the tag because it was marked $10. I apologized and took a look. The clearance sticker was placed in entirely the wrong place, leaving the regular price barcode completely exposed, so that's what the scanner picked up. I apologized again and explained that the tickets didn't match up, but we'd have somebody run a confirmatory price check. Now, this was the first item I had scanned, so I was extra vigilant with his other items, all of which had improperly placed clearance tickets. They were all men's big and tall sizes, but at least one of the clearance tags was from Junior Miss. Some of the items were already cleared, but with a replace tag for just a $2 or $3 difference. I would have caught it eventually, but pointing out the scanning error is what tipped me off. Throughout the whole thing, the guy was unfailingly polite, so I kept thanking him for his patience while we ran for price checks. He still bought $50 worth of stuff. Another favorite was when one of our own known shoplifters, the kind who does it as a criminal enterprise, turned in a job application. We had her on camera stealing handbags earlier that day. Now, his politeness might have gotten him further than otherwise. I think he knew I had caught on pretty quickly and realized it would look way less sketchy if he played along. Certainly, I've had other customers get indignant in the same scenario. That's probably the more typical reaction. To put it bluntly, he was a big young black guy in a community where that sometimes stands out. There are people I work with for whom that might be enough to keep a close eye on him, even when so much of our shrink is perpetuated by a criminal gang headed by white women. Those few coworkers would probably get accusatory fast, which to me and seemingly corporate policy only opens us up to more grief. Story 9. They wanted nachos, but the queso was $2 cheaper, so they tried to order queso with the meat on the side, explaining this reasoning to the server with straight faces. They threw a fit when the server and then the manager explained that the queso was already mixed in one big pot and we weren't going to pick out the solid bits for one order, especially since it's not like it would make a difference in how it tastes. Naturally, they complained about all the food they ate. They didn't end up ordering queso or nachos. Apparently, that was a deal breaker. But my manager had an "if you cleaned your plate, you obviously like the food" policy, so they were ultimately unsuccessful all around. Story 10. I used to work in a call center. My job was to call customers' references. These are usually people that know the customer well enough, and we make sure the info we have on file is correct. 1 out of 10 will get a mom, boyfriend, friend, aunt who will put the customer on blast and tell us that they will not pay their bill. The customer will get canceled. As per call center rules, we are not allowed to hang up on people or argue with them. The worst was when the customer would list 3 references, set up 3 Google Voice numbers, and then answer the phone on all 3 numbers and just attempt to change their voice to give themselves a reference. And I had to sit and listen to it the whole time, ask them questions while they plug their nose and try to pass themselves off as a different person. Story 11. I worked at Starbucks for a while, had this one guy who always tried to scam free stuff. So to get a venti coffee, it's like $2 or $3, and first thing in the morning, we don't have much cash in the drawers, maybe $50, seeing as it's the start of the day. So this guy comes in at 5:30 a.m. and orders just a large coffee, but you see, he only has $100. Me, being the nice, customer-friendly girl that I am, just offered it to him for free, not realizing what was happening, and sent him on his way. It's not his fault we don't have change for him, right? Then he tries it again the next day. I mean, really, are you so stupid that you would think I wouldn't notice it? This time I say, "Oh, let me get the manager so we can make change for you." "Oh, now you suddenly have a $5 bill in your car." Sure. Story 12. I used to work in medical billing. This one lady called to make an appointment and she had no proof of her insurance. She insisted she had insurance and was unwilling to pay anything at her appointment. We said if she had her insurance agent call our office with her policy info and confirm that she was insured, we would accept that. So she hangs up, then within minutes she calls us back from the same number, her cell number, and pretends to be an insurance representative. My coworker got that one and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you calling from the patient's cell phone?" The lady hung up that phone very quickly and we never heard from her again. Story 13. Retail gets a ton of these cheats. Here are some examples. A worker scans an item, let's say it's a high-end brand button-down shirt, and it rings up at $100. The customer will say, "But the rack it was on said 80% off." After going over to check, the worker notices that the shirt was indeed hanging on a rack labeled 80% off, but that rack was full of last season's shorts. There were no other shirts on the rack, but not surprisingly, there are 4 other shirts of the same style and price that are hanging on a separate rack, and no discount is advertised on that rack. The customer was obviously mistaken, but they demanded a manager anyway. Ticket switching. A worker scans an item, let's say it's the same button-down shirt, this does happen a lot after all, that they know cost $100, but it rings up at $70. However, the register also reads as having scanned a t-shirt from a different brand which is located halfway across the store from the shirt the customer actually brought to the register. Obviously, that's not correct. Customers are much less likely to debate this, and I'll explain why in a second. The store runs a promotion which essentially boils down to buy enough stuff in the store and we'll give you a free gift card. A customer comes in and buys $110 worth of stuff and they get a $20 gift card. They then wander around the store and find different items that cost just over $100 again. So they take their first purchase to another register, return it, and then purchase the new stuff and they get another $20 gift card. Rinse and repeat. With the exception of the last one, these people are committing retail fraud, which is a misdemeanor, on par with actual shoplifting, for the dollar amounts they're trying to make off with. Doing this is a quick and easy way to never be able to go to a retail store again without having employees basically breathing down your neck. Number 3 isn't illegal, it's just a nuisance. Please be aware that if a store ever runs a promotion like this, the promotional gift cards are tracked, in a sense. If the items that were bought to receive the gift card are returned, the gift card no longer has any value. Our imaginary customers for scenario 3 will be very disappointed when they come in with hundreds of dollars in gift cards only to figure out they only have $20 on a single gift card. I remembered another cheat too. The store where I work does not sell damaged goods because that sets a precedent for people to spill a bit of soda or smear some makeup on something and ask for and/or get a reduced price because of the damage. The worst example I have of this is something that happened quite recently. It's just about closing time, and 2 people, probably a boyfriend and girlfriend or a husband and wife, come in and start looking at some high-end stuff in my section. I wasn't too keen on helping them originally, but I very quickly noticed that the man looked like he was casing the place. He was very obviously trying to block my view of him, and he searched for all of our security cameras. I approached both of them and asked if they need help. They very quickly say they're just browsing, whatever. At one point, the woman says, "Babe, I found one," and the 2 of them grab a shirt and stand ridiculously close to the store exit, facing away from the security cameras. Now I'm staring them down from about 30 feet away, and they eventually notice, so they scurry off to the closest department and go into a fitting room. I let my coworker know that they look super shifty, and then I go do stuff for a while. No one else is around, so I go back to my coworker to talk to him about some stuff and help him with closing details. And before I even reach him, the man from earlier storms towards him and shouts to him, "Hey, are you a manager?" My coworker says no, but lets the man know that he can't call a manager if he lets him know why a manager's presence is necessary. The man says there's a hole in the shirt he wanted to buy, so he's wanting to get a 75% discount for the damaged shirt, which was one of those mystical $100 shirts. I wasn't able to see the shirt and I just went about minding my own business, but I found out later what had happened. The man and woman went into the fitting rooms and took the handicap accessible room, which has a nice big table space for disabled individuals to sit while changing. The man attempts to take the security tag off of the shirt, and he succeeds, but he also rips a hole in the shirt. We're not talking about a pinprick. This guy had literally ripped an almost 3/4 inch in diameter hole in his goddamn shirt. It was completely ruined. He then tried to guilt my coworker into selling it to him for an absolutely crazy reduced price. Standard price reduction for minor physical blemishes such as color differences or creases in floor sample shoes is at most 10%, because it was 1, damaged, and 2, the only shirt of its kind that the store had in his size. My coworker obviously refused to let the man walk away with his failed shoplifting attempt, and later the 2 of us found the broken security tag stuck to the underside of the table in the handicap accessible changing room with a piece of chewing gum. Story 14. I worked at a movie theater, and we had this one guy who would purchase an IMAX ticket and use his loyalty card to get the points. Usually, he would purchase it at a kiosk, and I kid you not, would come asking for a refund less than 5 minutes after the purchase. How the loyalty system was set up was that the points would not be refunded also. So he did this a few times just to get a free movie coupon. Pretty easy to catch it because we noticed the time the ticket was purchased after we refunded it. Sent it up the ladder to corporate, his loyalty account was canceled, and they changed the system to refund points also. Story 15. Starbucks ex-employee here. The customer orders a drink, the barista makes the drink, and the customer says, "It doesn't taste right." So we have to remake it, but they keep the first mistake drink as well and give it to a friend who just happened to not order anything at all. Finally, they now have a policy to remake the drink, you have to give up the first mistake drink. Also, ordering just espresso shots over ice and then filling up the rest with creamer at the craft bar, there's a special circle in hell for you people. Story 16. I work in a book chain here in Ireland where we use euro. A lot of our magazines come from the UK where they use pounds, so they'll have a price in pounds on the cover. I had one woman absolutely lose it at me when the price came up as €6 when the price on the cover said £4. She insisted on paying the pound price because she happened to have a £5 note on her, but asked to see my manager at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night when I told her I couldn't sell her the pound price because we add Irish taxes, cost of doing business, etc. to that price. People are weird. Story 17. I used to work at a workwear store and we had a scrub club card for scrub tops and pants where if you bought 6 tops, you get a free scrub top and likewise for pants. The one woman would come in every few weeks claiming she gained or lost weight and needed to return 7 scrub tops and 7 pairs of scrub pants, therefore collecting the money for the bonus top and pair of pants. I seemed to be the only one that recognized her face in the same situation around twice a month, and that your weight cannot fluctuate between baggy pants and top sizes enough times a month to require new scrubs. So I told my boss, we caught her in the act and told her she was no longer welcome in the store. Bonus, fast forward a couple of years, I meet a new friend and go to her house to hang out. I met her mom and sure enough, her mom is a scrub and I found out she was a minister, a profession which obviously does not require medical scrubs. I recognized her and vice versa but never mentioned it to my friend. Story 18. I work at Starbucks, and yes, I understand how overpriced it is. If I didn't work there, I would never order it. Anyways, we have a regular who comes in every day and is huge and is a very cheap person. If you bring your own cup, you do get a 10% discount, but he always says, "Don't forget my discount. It's 10 cents. Whatever." Recently, he told one of my partners that his previous drink was made wrong and that a different partner, let's call her Julie, had said he could get a free one. Now, Julie wasn't there at the time, so we went ahead and gave it to him. Come to find out later that Julie had never said that and hadn't even talked to him. So about a week goes by and one of my supervisors, let's call her Wendy, asked him about it and said, well, Julie is in a lot of trouble for this because she isn't authorized to give away free drinks without letting someone know. And he said, oh no, it was so-and-so, and she said, oh really? Because so-and-so is the one who was telling me this, so next time, make sure to try your drink before you leave, so this doesn't keep happening. He was so nervous, he dropped his lid twice and kept stuttering. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. I only say that because he adds a million things to it and gets mad that we charge him for it. Story 19. Some years ago, I worked at a bookstore that was a chain, but with only one store in each of the 7 cities it was in. The closest one was about 250 miles away. On Tuesday morning, a woman walked in at 10 a.m., we opened at 9, and said she wanted to return a hardcover book that her daughter had bought as a present for her that she didn't want. She claimed her daughter had bought it at another one of our stores. I looked at the book and it was a very popular title that had literally gone on sale that day. Now, sometimes books have an official release date, but it's okay if you start selling them earlier because it's a book no one ever heard about. But this was going to be a huge bestseller, so the street date was strict. If you got caught selling the book early, the publisher would come down hard on you, so no one would be dumb enough to sell it early. Anyway, I pointed this out to this woman that the book had literally come out that day. She didn't think this was a big deal, just said her daughter had bought it somewhere else. I asked her if she was sure that it had been bought at another one of our stores, and she said yes. I pointed to her left where we had bookmarks with all of our stores' information and showed her that the closest store was 250 miles away, so what she said was impossible. Even though she was caught in her own lies, she doubled down and said not only had it been sold the previous day, but her daughter had shipped it to her. Well, too bad for her, we had access to all of our other stores' sales in real time. I called up the ISBN for this book, turned my computer screen towards her, and showed her that not only had no other store sold a copy of the book before today, but since our store was one time zone ahead of all the other stores, none of the other stores were even open yet and hadn't sold a copy yet. She asked to speak to a manager. Not wanting to waste my actual manager's time, I told her I was the GM. She asked for the owner's information and I gave her his email and phone number and told her to have a nice day. She walked out, pissed with her probably stolen from a Barnes & Noble or Borders book. Story 20. I used to work as a hostess at a popular wing place. Once we had a family come through and when it was time to pay, they handed their server Denny's coupons. The server was like, "This is for Denny's, not for here." And the customer said, "Oh, I just thought I'd try it anyways. You never know."